I was like, yo, this kid, he has something. And we have to figure out a way to make sure that he doesn't fall into the wrong circles, because there were a lot of kids who had talent at the time, right? And you needed someone who could mold, who can help give direction.
That's where I get all my energy from the stage to the studio and to my desk. I am the energy god, and you can be one too.
You're listening to Adeshokbe Live, the Afrobeats podcast.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another edition of Adeshokbe Live, the official Afrobeats podcast, right here for the first time ever in Atlanta, Georgia. Yeah, we can get a round of applause for that. Now, as always, this is brought to you by the Energy God Energy Drink, an iconic as well, global. If you're looking for anything about distribution, content distribution, music distribution, just go to iconicdistro.com. They can definitely sort you out there. Now, when I decided I was coming to Atlanta, I made up my mind immediately, even before I was buying a ticket, because I knew we had some great pioneers out here. I was going to have a sit down with someone important. Now, this guy was a rapper, was a lyricist, was a producer, was a video director, was a label exec, owned a record label, was a superstar icon out of Nigeria, one of the first people to actually do it, digging in the mud. It is the incredible eLDee!
Thank you. I appreciate that intro, bro.
Bro, do you know the funny thing? A while ago, I was checking the interview that we had done. Mm-hmm. And in that interview was actually me talking about those specific roles that you had played.
Right.
A rapper, a lyricist, a producer, a video director, a label executive. And at that time, this was well over 14 years ago.
That's right.
At that time, it was still like 10 years of you doing everything like that.
That's right.
So this is the new generation of Afrobeats. A lot of these young kids, they don't know who.
They don't know.
So we gotta teach them. eLDee
They don't know.
started off as a rapper when you were in university in Lagos, Nigeria.
That's right. I actually started off in secondary school, high school, in Kaduna. I grew up in Kaduna, and we basically embraced like just hip hop culture was a thing, back then. And that was pretty much all we consumed, right? I mean, I talked about this many times where I say we literally saw MTV.
Absolutely.
MTV kind of kick off and UMTV
UMTV raps in the early 90s.
Like, so I watched I kind of studied the blueprint of what the early hip hop pioneers did. And so that was similar to what we were trying to replicate, in Nigeria with the music. One of the things that stood out for me in the beginning was we needed to make sure that our stuff was original and it needed to have its own identity, right? So even though I was a rapper and I really wanted to rap, I recognized the importance of making it original. Because in that era, the only thing that made you stand out was that you were original, right? So I used to say to my boys then, I was like, yo, we're doing all this rapping, but we need to connect with the roots.
With the locals,
this is where it needs to connect with us.
Facts.
So whether it's Pidgin English, putting Yoruba in it, doing all of the little Fuji here and there, a little bit of, we were also heavily influenced by reggae, just mishmash all of it. I actually heard something Burner said in one interview where he said Afrobeats is like a pizza, right?
Yes.
Where the dough is like Afrobeats, Ella's Afrobeats, right? Or like high life music.
Yep.
And then all of the sprinklings on top of it is like a little bit of reggae, a little bit of R&B, a little bit of hip hop. So I had that mindset, from the beginning, and I'm really glad that it paid off because that, I feel, is what eventually gave us global recognition because it was different.
Absolutely,
it was
man.
Totally different. It was brand new, it was fresh, and it was difficult for anybody else to replicate.
Talking about being brand new and fresh, like I remember being at university at the time, and this was just when we were getting the likes of Plantation Boys, Remedies. It was like 1997, 98.
That's right.
And all of a sudden, I hear this record. Boom, boom, boom. Shake body. Shake body. Yes, that was a rap record. Yeah. But the fact that the shake body was what caught every one of our attentions that we knew this was from back home. This was one of us. Even though you sounded, the way you were rapping was, your accent was very kind of like American. But trust me, Shake Body changed the whole sound and it changed the whole game. Yeah. Talk to me about that record, man.
So when we're trying to make that record, I mean, one of the things that I was focused on, because I produced, was writing, doing all of that, right? One of the things I wanted to do is make sure that it connected to the local audience.
Yes.
So again, going back to the whole analogy of the dough and the sprinklings on it, it needed to have a high life Afrobeats base. So Shake Body in itself, it takes its essence from Afrobeat, right? Even the bass line. Doom, doom, doom.
Whether you like doom, doom. Whether you know like
and think about even the chorus. Think about even the chorus. Whether you like
whether
taps into fella, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so that was didn't think about that, huh?
Oh, damn, that's so, 32 years to find out. Jesus.
So the whole thing is like, okay, yeah, we could do all of this rapping, but the other thing we also need to do is make sure that whatever we're rapping about is stuff that people could relate to, right? And people could really, really connect with. So, that was kind of how all of that started.
Introduction was Tribesmen. It was you and a group of guys, Tribesmen, and you had Shake Body, a hit record. When we're talking about a hit record back then, we basically just meant that it was, we were playing it, radio had it, a lot of people were playing it in clubs. What did that really translate to
so, I mean,
for you?
For context, right?
Yes.
At the time, it was 99%
American.
Western music on the radio.
Facts.
They never played local music, really. If you wanted to listen to local music, you had to go to specific, like, AM radio. You couldn't even hear it on FM radio. So for us, breaking into FM and also becoming one of the, I guess, top played records to the point where we're charting on those radio stations was a major breakthrough. It was a major breakthrough. Because I remember the struggle then, going back to the radio stations, trying to get in. I'd go to Rhythm at like 6 o'clock in the morning. Rhythm FM was one of the first private stations at the time. And I'd go there at 6 a.m. in the morning just so I could catch the OAPs when they're going into work and be like, yo, I got this stuff, you guys got to listen to it, please play our records, blah, blah, blah. And, first couple weeks it was just like, whatever. What do you guys have? And then one time we met this guy called DJ Abdullah. And DJ Abdullah used to play in Surulere where my studio was. So I gave him the CD, and I was like, yo, just take it with you to work and just play it for these dudes. Let them listen to it, because every time we show up, they tell us to fuck off, right? So I'm like, yo, go play. So he played it, and then next thing he was like, oh, one of the guys at the radio station is like, you guys should come in, and he'll interview you. Wow. So that was our very first time actually getting into radio. So we got there, we did that, they played it, and then about, say, a couple days later, J.J. the Top Gun, who was like one of the biggest OAPs at the time. He had this show called Top 7 Jams at 7, right? And so Top 7 Jams at 7 was basically really hip-hop and R&B, right? The biggest records at the time. That's how you got to hear like all of the new stuff. If you were in Lagos and you weren't like connected to Yankee the way, some of us.
They were the ones that were breaking it.
They were breaking the record. So I'm listening, and every time we listened to the radio station at the time, if you wanted to catch some new jams, you put a cassette
to record it,
right? So that's how you can catch the records.
Oh, Jesus
so I put the tape in, boom, boom, boom. I'm recording the countdown, and he gets to number 2, and he's like, at number 2 this week, got a record. It's by a local group, and this and that and the other. Tribesmen. I said, what the fuck? So I'm screaming downstairs.
Yeah.
For some reason, my mom's upstairs. She's listening to the radio too. Shout out to my mom. She's a huge supporter in the beginning. My mom's upstairs. She's running down the steps. My sister's running from her bedroom.
Wow.
My phone is ringing. Like, we have one of these
the old school,
rotary,
the old school
rotary phone.
You know what I mean?
Right? My phone is going. Brr, 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 brr. I'm picking up. Freestyle's calling me. Part of Tribesman. KB's calling me. Well, like, yo, we're on the radio, and that was kind of like the beginning of it for us. Now, also additional context, right? There was Ray Power,
yes,
owned by Kenny and D1.
Yes,
they had a record label. They had signed Remedies, so Remedies was kind of already
moving at the time,
and it was already kind of playing, but they wouldn't play anybody else because we went over there too, and they told us to
F off,
fuck off, right? So anyway, so this was like a major breakthrough for, I guess, what I would consider an independent artist, at the time, because we were what you would consider, I think, really truly independent, because it was all on me. You know, my mom, again, my biggest supporter. She gave me a car to get around. She paid for studio sessions. She paid for the CDs to be made. She was doing stupid shit back then. If you think about the context of what it means to be a Nigerian parent supporting music in the 90s, it was just like, yeah, what are you doing? Like, I can imagine a lot of her friends would have looked at her and said, what? It's like, Yinka, what are you doing? Why are you supporting this nonsense? This boy is smart. You know, he's doing all this stuff. Why don't you let him focus on his education and blah, blah, blah? And she's just like, she told me, she was like, listen, as long as your grades stay in the A+ range, I will back you with whatever it is that you need. And I'm talking about, the kind of backing I'm talking about is unprecedented. Well, at the time was unprecedented.
Till now, unprecedented.
I mean, I guess now people feel like, oh, I see a lot of stars or whatever.
Still, but it's still unprecedented
It's
to
crazy.
have a parent in Nigeria that would say, as long as your grades are good, I'm still going to stand by you with this creative stuff. Remember how we saw creative guys back then? Drugs.
It was,
smokers,
yeah.
You know, these are layabouts.
To paint a picture, right? If you thought about a Nigerian music, a local Nigerian artist, not the traditional ones, but like, you know, the guys were trying to do mainstream stuff, right? It was just some bum carrying a guitar, walking around the streets, you know, looking for transport money to get, you know, to go home type, you know. So who aspires to be that? You know what I'm saying? So at the time when we were starting, again, the blueprint for us was, I've seen what happened with hip hop in the US. I saw it from the very beginning. And I figured that if we could do this the way that we were moving, that we would have similar breakthroughs. Because at the end of the day, it's about culture, right?
Facts.
And if you're able to connect with the culture of the time, then people can relate to the music. So that was my thing. It was like, okay, how do we make sure we connect with the culture of the time so that we can start to really move? I mean, I'm talking about first couple demos, I would record cassettes. Again, my mom's paying for all this shit. Record a bunch of tapes, go out, sell it out of the trunk of my car, type. You know, we go to university campuses, and then I play the music. She bought me a sound system. I can never forget. It was a Sony system with the, I put some subs in my trunk so the music could be loud. So I'm out there on these campuses. We're just playing the music loud, and people are hearing the lyrics, and they're like, yo, what the fuck is this? And I'm like, yo, come check this out, this and that and the other. And we're selling the cassettes for like 50, 15 hours. So we really, like, from the mud, right?
So one of my closest friends, his older brother, Ramayowa Oluyeba, at the time, had an office in Surulere.
I know who that is.
You know.
That's my big brother. That's my big brother.
So I went to his office.
Oh, wow. That was our studio.
And they told me that the tribesmen are actually packing their tapes over there
Right.
to go sell.
That's right.
That's my brother.
That's right.
That's literally my big brother.
Wow.
See, like,
Wow.
So
Wow.
I remember that day so well. Like, we just came, we were about to kind of like just joyride his 504 for a bit. Or I told us to come meet him at the office in Surulere.
Right.
And a bunch of guys who I didn't know at the time were sat in the corner
Just putting tapes together. Yep. Making freaking like, I mean, I remember actually going to Shomolu, which was like where they did the printing at the time. Like just printing in general in Lagos. It was all in Shomolu, right? And I went there and I designed the little inlay cards for the cassettes, and also the same thing, the inlay cards for the CDs. In fact, here's a fun fact. Those paper packs that ended up in Alaba, I put that together. It was my template
that
Alaba essentially used
machine
for distribution, physical distribution. Absolutely,
Nigeria, They copied the template.
We literally, I mean, the guy who was printing my stuff had told me, he was like, oh, these guys came here, they said they want to use the thing. And I was like, hell yeah, the more the merrier. Everybody, you know, run with it. So the plates that we put together, like that little inlay, I mean, it wasn't an original idea. Obviously, I was buying CDs from New York and stuff.
But for us, you know, that's something that you saw from America. You decided to do it for you and your guys.
That's right.
And the whole distribution industry followed suit.
Followed it. Let me tell you why we did that. So the jewel cases for CDs were plastic.
Yep.
And we used to have to import that stuff from Malaysia. So the first set of CDs that we imported, often, by the time they came, they were broken. Because, you know, shipping back then, they just threw that shit all around. So it gets to us, and like half of the cases are broken. I was like, yo, we got to figure something out. And then I had a couple of those. I think it might have been the Craig Mack promo CD. that I had, and it was in one of those paper packs. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna unravel this stuff and just figure out the dimensions, take it to Shomolo and get them to print the exact same thing, cut it, die cut, or whatever they used to call it then, cut it out, and we put our CDs in there. And that's how the whole thing started. Crazy.
You spoke about being independent. Now, recently I caught up with a brother of mine, shout out to Tunde from Style Plus, who obviously Olufumi came through, I think 2001, 2002, but he was adamant that he was like the first, he was part of the first indie label / crew to have broken through pop radio at the time and stuff like that. But if we're looking
Well,
at
here's
the
a fun
timeline-
fact about that, and I saw that,
Yeah.
and I commented on it on Instagram, and maybe it was a little bit of a, maybe I was a little bit aggressive with my comment when I said this. When I said this nigga might have been on crack, because my fun fact is this: Style Plus actually came to that same office in Surulere to Tribe Records, trying to get signed. So to show up and be like, oh yeah, I'm the first independent nigga, you came to an independent record label trying to get signed. Like, what are you talking about, bro?
So that means like you're
And shout out to Tunde, shout out to Shiffy, you know, Style Plus, I love them.
because it was the same kind of hustle.
They did, honestly, they did, you know, have a significant impact, you know, in the game. I think he had his facts a little bit twisted, but the point of the matter is we're all, you know, pioneers in our own right.
Yes.
You know, we all did a bunch of things. We did stuff, they did stuff too. So I'm not going to take the fact that, you know, they were pioneers as well. I can't take that away from them.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about Tribe Records.
Right.
First, it was Tribe Men, the guys,
Right.
you know, and all of a sudden you decided, listen, like you said, this was going to be our own independent label. We're running through with this. Did you have any technical business know-how? What did you know enough
Bro,
to say, let me do my own thing?
I was 16, and I didn't really know a lot, but there was a blueprint. So I studied, you know, leaders of the new school and the native tongue, and, you know, basically they had a collective. They had a collective.
They had a crew system.
They had a crew system. You know, this is like early before even like Wu-Tang and everybody else was coming through. So my whole thing was, if there is a way to make this not just about Tribesmen. So Tribesmen is already, at the time, successful. You know, as successful as we could be considering the circumstances, right? If there was a way that we could create a much bigger crew, then we would have a bigger impact. Because the more people that are doing this, the more of a movement we can actually start. It's one thing to have one group or one artist is doing well. It's another thing to have a collective of people doing well. So then came Oladile, then came Two Shots and Two Ply. Actually, Two Shots and Two Ply came first, right? So Four Men, Oladile, Sasha, Timmy the Black One, Dr. Sid, you know, Double O, Blaze, female rapper Blaze, Mist, who ended up not really putting out a project, but she was part of the crew at the time, Neola. You know, there's so many people that were around the Sound Sultan, Dari Atalade. Man, it was a lot of people, you know.
How did you attract this variety of talent at the time? Because obviously you guys are concentrating on yourselves as tribesmen. eLDee was also slowly starting to pop out as a lead character now. Because everybody, I think we all felt the energy that a lot of this stuff was being rizzed by yourself.
I think it was obvious to anyone who was close to the crew that, well, first of all, the studio, I owned the studio. It was in my facility.
Yeah.
I was doing a lot of like the directing when it came to like the music. This is not to take credit from, you know, Freestyle or KB, because they definitely contributed, you know, creatively. But I was doing a lot of like the directing, like, okay, this is what we need to do. This is how we need to spin it. This is how we need to look. This is what we need to wear. This is how we need. And then I was trying to pick up like skills too, like with mixing and mastering and all of that. So if you came around that, it was obvious. And I really appreciate and the RZA sort of comparison, right? Because I feel like it was kind of like that.
Yep.
My whole thing was, how could I be a Russell Simmons while I'm being an artist?
You're still a star player.
And also trying to figure out all the things that we didn't have, because we just didn't have access to being able to shoot good videos, being able to produce like high quality sounding music. So those are the things I focused on. Thankfully, I had a dad who was in technology. My dad was like a pioneer of sorts in his own space as well. Wow. Fun fact, That man was the first person to connect Nigeria to the internet.
Ah,
And this is something that, you know, people will go back and forth and argue. They don't know his name because he just wasn't that guy, right? Who wanted to, like, you know, put himself out there.
yeah.
But the very first cyber cafe in Lagos was set up by my dad.
wow.
The very first connection for mobile and CBN and really the government.
Wow.
My dad was doing all of that. So at the time, we had access to technology that wasn't readily
ahead.
available. Wasn't readily available. So having all of those things, and this was also functioning out of the same building, by the way. So I just had a room in the building where my studio was, but all around us was all of that, you know, the music is being produced. Also, shout out to Bro Mayowa, who's another pioneer, you know, in Nollywood.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Who also was breaking grounds because of a lot of the technology that we had around us.
Available.
Non-linear editing. They were the first to start non-linear editing. Why was that possible? Because we had access to the internet. We could download all these softwares. We could, you know what I mean? Like all of that kind of stuff. So all these things playing out at the same time was what positioned us at the time for anyone who was trying to do it at the level that we were trying to do it, to see us
Every time I spoke
as
to you
a
at
source,
the time,
yeah.
or anytime I heard you speak at the time, you always made mention of the fact that you wanted the music to sound like the international music. You wanted our music in those spaces. You wanted us to be represented the way the international artists were being represented. What exactly was that thing for you that that made you feel like we should be at that level, even though it was extremely early?
It was a dream that at the time, I don't think anybody else saw, not even within the crew.
Facts.
But I was able to see it again because I was a very ardent student of hip hop, and I saw a lot of things unravel, like with the way it played out for most of the guys who started the way we were starting. So the blueprint was already there. I just needed to follow the blueprint. What do you need to do? Get the music made. Make sure that the music is original.
Quality.
So now I'm thinking about quality of the music. Now I'm thinking about how do we own the music? How do we make sure that we're not sampling? Because I'm learning about sampling and interpolation and publishing and this and that and the other. So that's, I think, where all of the business side started to sort of come in, right? But in terms of like, you know, again, being able to actually hack it, I think the access to technology also helped. I don't know if there was any specific thing that I had, and it's easy to look back in retrospect and be like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just always knew, right?
But you knew.
But it's easy to say that now,
Yeah.
but there was just something. I guess when something's meant to happen, the universe will align and nudge you in the direction for it to happen. So, you know, a lot of the stuff that I was doing then was really just, you know, to get to that point.
Now, during your era was when we had your Two Faces, you know, your Remedies, and then P Square came into the mix, early 2000s and stuff.
Right.
Talk to me about the challenges then, even getting booked as an artist. What was that like? All those times that we were going crazy to Tribesmen, whether you like them, what was the paycheck saying?
Zero for the most part. Matter of fact, it was negative thousands, you know, of dollars, I would say, because my mom actually would sometimes front me money so I could pay a promoter so we could get on stage.
God damn.
Yeah, that was how crazy it was. I remember Lucky Sunsplash, one of the last ones that they did, right? We went over there, we're like, oh yeah, you know, we're local artists, you know, we've got some stuff. It's kind of starting to play on the radio. They're like, what's your name? What's your name? It's like, oh, you know what, you know, Tribesmen. It's like, nigga, we don't know you. We don't know you. Are you Daddy Shoki? No, you're not. Man, please go and sit down. Are you Blackie? You know, go and sit down. You know, so that was kind of what we're dealing with. And so I would go to the DJs and be like, yo, let me know when you guys have a little break, right? And just give us a chance and just pass us the mic and we'll come up. It's like, what are you going to do for me, right? So like, all right, nigga. Give you a little something. And this is how we literally, you know, started to get on stages. And then when we got on stage and people were like, oh, seems like they like these guys. Then the promoter then calls you and says, hey, we're doing another show at so-and-so. We're having something at the stadium. We're having something at this, that. Can you guys come? But obviously they wouldn't pay us. You know, just show up. Don't worry. I'll give you. So it's basically like, I'll give you a little time so that I can, you know, come and
Promote.
do your thing. So I'm promoting you, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, so that was kind of how it started. And I don't think we got paid to perform until it might have been 2000, early 2000.
God damn it.
Yeah, so from 97, 98, 99, it was all self-funded. Again, I keep talking about my mom, man. I wish like there was a way that I could really, truly repay her because she supported some shit that just didn't make sense at the time. Because it was just like, oh, why are you throwing money at this stuff? My first studio cost 4,000 pounds. 4,000 pounds at the time is probably, I don't know, $40,000 right now.
Minimum 40,000 pounds right now, or 50K.
Is what she was like, oh, you want some studio equipment? All right, just make a list. I'm going to London. I'll get it.
That was it.
And she set up the studio. So it was, stuff like that. So again, I don't feel like I deserve personally all of the credit. I feel like the universe aligned, for a lot of that stuff to happen.
Okay, obviously Tribesman was the beginning, and then you had the whole Tribe crew, family, dropping project as a family. Sasha popped up. Where did you find Sasha? How did you?
Everybody just showed up, man. Everybody showed up.
Came to
they
you?
came, yeah. Everybody showed up. Like I wasn't actually. Well, I put the word out and say, hey.
Were you looking for a crew?
I was looking for a crew. Okay. So I put the word out and say, hey, if you know anyone, who's dope, who's doing. That's how I met Freestyle in the first place.
Wow.
Who was part of Tribesmen. So I just put the word out. If you know any rappers out there, any people who could really do music, tell them to come through. And so Freestyle came through, and that's how we met. And the same way, Sasha came, eLDee came, Dr. Sid came. Everybody else came. And, fast forward 10 years down the road, this is the same way I met Banky, right? Yeah. That's how I met Banky W.
That's where I was going to go. Like, you and Banky W for me, after the Tribe era, eLDee and Banky W for me, you made some of my favorite jams.
It's crazy.
Of the late 2008, 2010, 2000, like, what was it? Like, talk to me about meeting Banky and how you guys connected, because the music was just incredible.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Banky was a talent. It was undeniable talent, right? And I guess he saw in me something he could relate to, because he was, living in America. I was living in America at the time. I was back and forth, right? And I probably was someone that he could connect with, right? And he knew that I would understand what he was trying to do. And he felt like maybe, I'm saying he felt, but I guess he thought that would be an opportunity for him to break into the market.
Yeah.
So us meeting we met at the reunion. Nigerian reunion was massive. That was the biggest Nigerian event. Like every year, like
massive.
You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Shegun Adeyemo, who's now a congressman. By the way.
No way.
Yeah, he's the one who actually facilitated that back then.
Nigerian reunion.
Nigerian
how
reunion.
Big that thing was.
That's right. Shout out to Shegun. Honorable.
Wow.
But so I met Banky, and we made some music together, and then there was also a Nigerian reunion that went to Canada. So we went to Canada, in the hotel, just like chopping it up and blah blah blah. And I told him, I said, listen, I'm about to go back to Niger and really spend time in Nigeria. So what are you trying to do? And he's like, bro, let's do it, let's go. So it was me, him, Tunde Demorin. And we talked about this, and he was like, yeah. And they were like, yeah, we were also planning on going to Nigeria. I was like, fuck it, let's do it. 2008. And we headed, back to Niger, and so we did Big Boy.
I'm a big boy.
We did the Big Boy record. We did his W Experience record. Yeah. Like literally, that album.
That era was you and him
on my computer in Omole at his house. Like we literally recorded the whole thing. This is when Wiz came in the picture as well. So Wiz actually came to meet us at that studio.
No.
While we were recording the W Experience, for real.
No way.
That's right. So Wiz came, he did a couple things like, yo, you need to put this boy on, blah, 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 blah. I mean, at the time, I wasn't looking to sign anybody because I just gotten back. But Banky was thinking about an opportunity to kind of grow what they were doing with EME as well. Like, it couldn't just be about him. Ibutimeta had popped off at this point.
Yep.
So it was like, yo, we need a crew. And also, my mentality had always been that if you can get this going to where you have a crew, then you have an opportunity for a stronger movement, right? And so that's how, all of that happened.
Wow. Yeah, my brother, you were talking about the recording of the W Experience where Wiz had come in and showed up as well.
Yep. So it was myself, eLDee, who was also part of the Tribe crew at the time, and Banky, they used to hang out, and Dr. Frabs.
Wow.
God rest his soul, that were hanging out in Omole at Tunde Demorin's house. And so I set up in their study.
Yes.
Had my little computer or whatever, and we were, Big Boy was big at the time, so we're looking to create some more records that sort of were along those lines. Yeah. So, and Cobams also did a couple records on there. I think Cobams did What was that record again?
I've forgotten what the title of the record is.
Damn, I can't believe I forgot that record.
man,
But
come on, man.
so Cobhams did some, Frabs did, a lot of it, but a lot of like just artistic direction and stuff like that. It was between myself, Oladele Banky,
Wow.
and at the time, Wiz had come in, so he also got on a couple of records and stuff. So that was a great experience. Yeah.
When you saw, for example, at the time when you saw someone like Wiz through the door, especially that early, before Banky eventually decided to sign him and stuff, what did you see anything?
No, I saw it. I saw it as soon as he walked in. I saw it as soon as he walked in. And I think, not trying to take credit or anything, but I feel like part of what I might have said to Banky was what gave them the
full confidence.
confidence to be like, you know what, let's do it, right? Because I was like, yo, this kid, he has something. And we have to figure out a way to make sure that he doesn't fall into the wrong circles. Because there were a lot of kids who had talent at the time, right? And you needed someone who could mold, who can help give direction. I remember one of the things that, I brought into the picture at the time was we were listening to a lot of Rock City. Rock City was out here in Atlanta, and they had a bunch of like mixtapes that they'd done, right? And so I was listening to that stuff, and I was telling Banky, I was like, yo, if this music is gonna go global, it needs to sort of align with this sound, right? And so I would bring in the Rock City records and play it, and some of that stuff was what we used to play to Wiz in them, and tell him, yo, listen, I get that you want to do like some of the stuff that sounds a little bit more reggae, because he was leaning more like reggae dance hall type.
I keep saying Wiz is a reggae dancehall.
Maybe deep down in his soul, that's kind of what he wanted to do. But at the time, I said, listen, you have to find the middle ground, right? It can't lean all the way dancehall, because first of all, you're not Jamaican. It can't lean all the way hip hop, because you're not American. Yeah. You can't out rap an American rapper.
That's
what you can do is something that is truly originally Nigerian, that has a lot of that flavor in it, which will make you stand out. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I remember the first, when he recorded Don't Dull, the freestyle, right? We were on a trip, and at this point, Wiz and Scales had started rolling with us to like shows, they'd be backstage or whatever, like just learning, right? Yeah. So he played that first one he did with, what's his name? Sam Clef. Yep. So he played it for us backstage while we're waiting to perform, and I was like, yo, this is it. This is it. Like, this is the sound. This is how it needs to go, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, fast forward, he puts out the first record. Matter of fact, the first show he performed at was when we did a Sound City Video Music Awards, right? And the performance was myself and Banky. And so that was the first time Wiz actually did like a big performance in front of a big audience or whatever. But we've been doing little things here and there. But man, I think about all that stuff, and it's great times.
So you had different eras. You had the era as part of Tribesmen, the rap crew. Right. Then kind of like created a record label. Tribe Record was resigned the whole Tribe team. Right. And then you had that eLDee and Banky W type of synergy moment where you guys would drop in the album. You came out with albums. You had the mixtape album. Then you had the album. You were a lead superstar at that time. Yeah. And then all of a sudden there was a big shift again where you almost wanted to do like a label distro. Talk to me about that one, because I think that was where the likes of Shaman and Co.
SARS. Yeah.
Oh,
so Shaman, SARS, Eva, K9, Soj, Aramide. So at that time, a lot of things were happening. I had sort of recognized the fact that I'm more of a starter, a builder. Orchestrator, so to speak, than really an artist, right? That's what I felt like at the time. I mean, I had a daughter, you know what I'm saying? Like, I had a family now. So I started thinking about how to sort of step back a little bit and then restart, which is why we called it Tribe 2.0, right? And restart and rebuild. However, I also had learned about business at this point. And I was trying to figure out a way to scale what we were doing. Because I realized, as eLDee, I could be successful and have one or two artists and just be doing it at that level. But if we wanted to really do this, because at this time, I started to see opportunity, like internationally and stuff. If we really wanted to do this, we needed to get funding. Now, here's what happens. I meet this VC of sorts. And at this point, also on the side, I had a couple tech interests.
Yep.
So I was in the VC venture capital world, and I was talking to a lot of people about investing. So I'd learned about that. So I met this one guy. He was like, "Oh yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, we're trying to do entertainment. We have a fund. You know, I can't remember what he said. It was like $2 billion, whatever he said at the time. And we're trying to do this and this and that and the other. But unfortunately, that was just the wrong connect, because what ended up happening was we were setting up the infrastructure where he would fund pretty much the scaling of the whole system. So there was distribution, there was publishing, there was a record label, there was a production house as well. So we had to set up, you know, doing videos. I had 3 studios that I had set up. I bought this property, like, there was a lot going on. But the plan was they were going to fund. What he was telling me was, no, eLDee, don't worry about it. I mean, come on, it's just a studio. Don't worry, go ahead. You set this up. The money's coming. The money's coming. The money's coming. The money is coming. The money never came. So here I am, over-leveraged, because now I've put all of this stuff in place. I've bought cars. I've signed artists. I'm paying people's freaking room and board. I'm housing all of these people, feeding everybody, carrying everybody on trips, go to London, go to South Africa. So at some point, I was just like, whoa, hold on a second. Okay, we're not moving until the money comes. How about that? So that's how that whole situation really fell apart.
What was that moment like for you to have, you know, done all what you've done in the industry and then gotten to this second stage where you thought, okay, we're about to make a huge step up now, and it all just falls apart? What was that like?
So what I could have done was I could have just gone back to my blueprint and just kept going the way that I was going. But at this time as well, I was learning a lot about business. And one of the things that was apparent to me at the time was to get to where I needed to be 5 years from 2010.
Yes.
To get to where I needed to be in 2015, it wasn't going to happen through the music. It just wasn't going to happen.
Gonna need a lot more.
I was going to need a lot more to get to that point. And I knew that I had way more potential than to sit here and compete with artists that I groomed. You know what I'm saying? And sit here and have to battle for, and you know, a lot of people don't talk about this, but back then we had to battle to get, because the available resources were limited, right? Sponsorships were limited, endorsements were limited, all of that stuff was limited. When you look at the total addressable market and the purchasing power of people in Nigeria,
at the time,
right?
Was it going to be enough?
Was it going to be enough? You know, you already had Mo Hits was popping, P Square was popping, Two Face and them were popping. Like there was so many. Nice was popping. T-Miles, but there's so many people in the game right now, and I figured, you know what? If this is going to happen the way that I envision it, I'm going to have to do business that makes sense. Let me give you an example of one of the things that happened. It was 2011, right? At the beginning of 2011, I looked at the numbers, because at this point I'm a numbers guy and I'm hanging out with VCs now. They're teaching me, like, yo, listen, if you're investing in a business, this is how the numbers have to make sense for the business to make sense. So I looked at it. I spent, at the time, the Naira wasn't this terrible. It was probably about $1 million, right? For year 2010, right? And at the end of the year, we made some money, but it was like 1.1. So then I asked myself, what other business could I put $1 million into
and just get 100,000
and get 1.1? This business ain't making sense, bro. This is not a business that makes sense. Now, people would argue that if you stayed and just kind of, you know, weather the storm, you might get to the point sometime 2016, 17, when things really popped off, when the internationals came in, when distribution came in, when all these labels wanted to do 360 deals, that it might have made sense. But I didn't have 5 years to give. I just didn't. Plus, I had other skills. Don't forget I was in tech. I had a couple tech ventures where I had millions of dollars put in front of me saying, hey, let's do this. So then the question was, if I have someone who's willing to give me $7 million, thereabout, for one of my startups, why am I putting money into this? This is a passion project. This is not a business endeavor. This is a basket that I'm pouring water into. That's right. This is a basket point. So I gotta, you know, so that was a choice that I had to make. Also, family. Now I have a daughter. I need to make sure that my daughter's in the right environment. So 2 things needed to happen. 1, I needed to move back to Yankee so that I could do what I needed to do, both in the tech space and also building up a business that is actually viable. And I am so grateful, bro, that I made that move. I am, yo, listen.
I see you on Instagram, bro.
Listen, bro,
I see you.
when I tell you, that was like, you know,
I see you.
before we started the podcast, I was saying, man, you know, sometimes I think about what could have been if I, you know, decided to stay and blah, blah, blah. But listen, bro,
Thank God.
because I be talking to my boys right now, be like, oh yeah, you know, people who are really successful even on the music side, and they're like, man, shit, it was like you saw a vision. I was like, nah, I didn't really see a vision. It was just, I just had to do what I had to do. You know what I'm saying? Had to do what I had to do. So
But yeah, you pivoted. You came back to America, settled down with the family. We're doing a bunch of things. And I see you. You're doing property. You're doing this, that, and the third. First of all, how has it been, you know, settling, being a family man, going into a different business? Were there any skills you took from the hustle that we had from the beginnings, the origins of Afrobeats, into your property market?
So first of all, if you can make it in Lagos,
You can make it anywhere.
make it anywhere. So I hear people say that about New York, but I guarantee you, New York ain't got shit on Lagos.
Bah.
Because in Lagos, you're working with nothing, literally nothing. No infrastructure, no government support, no capital, nothing. So if you can hack it in those environments, then come to New York, someone's gonna lend you money. All you gotta have is 10%. So when I moved here and I was trying to get into I wasn't even really trying to get into real estate. I was focused on tech, and I was doing tech, and we were doing pretty well in tech. However, my wife, she comes from a real estate family in Nigeria, and she always had the interest. So when she moved here, because not to get too deep into that, but her parents, her dad and her mom, they were real estate moguls, I could call them, you know, in Nigeria. So when we moved here, she was like, yeah, that's what I want to do, because that's what I know. And that's what she studied in college. She has a master's degree doing that. So I was like, okay, go do your thing, and let me do my thing. So I'm still in IT, doing all the tech stuff. She's on the real estate side, and then she starts showing me some stuff, and I'm like, nah, these numbers can't be real. Don't forget, I have my VC sort of background. I'm like, it's not possible, Joe. What do you mean? So you're telling me that if I put 10% of my money into this, I could spin this money around and make 300% on this within a year? How is that possible? And she's like, nah, listen, check this out. So I'm like, reluctantly, all right, fuck it, let's do the first one. When I got that check, I looked at tech. I looked at my bank account.
I said, nah, man.
I said, nigga, we gotta move.
We
moving. So another pivot. So I pivoted into real estate, and I am so grateful because the opportunity that America is an amazing country. The opportunity that America presents, especially for someone who grew out of the mud in Lagos, where there's nothing, to be in a space right here where there's all of this opportunity in front of you and not be able to take advantage of it. For someone like me, I would have been an idiot to not do it. And bro, I am so grateful because where I wanted to be, you know, talking about 2010 and going to 2015, where I wanted to be in 2015, 2020, I think I may have surpassed it 5 or 7, maybe even 10x.
That's amazing.
At this point with real estate, so I'm
going
grateful.
to ask you
Grateful.
3 final questions. One is where the Afrobeats industry is now, with the monsters that are your Wizes, your Davids, your Burna Boys. What are your thoughts about the whole game?
Your Remas, you gotta put Rema in there.
Rema, Shake, you're going to put...
You gotta put a Shake in there, you know what I'm saying? You gotta put them in there, yep.
Yeah, you know, I'm just talking about the way the game is right now. What are your thoughts about the game, what you see with each one of these guys? And
I feel like a proud daddy. Tolomo tutti graduate.
facts.
You know what I'm saying? I feel like I couldn't be more proud because one of my concerns at the time that I was leaving the game was that there may not have been enough passion to get it to this point. So I'm very happy to see that there was passion. There were people who really put in like 100x the grind that maybe we put in, you know, to get it to where it is right now. And I appreciate it. Every single time I travel, I mean, I've been touring with my kids. We did a Euro tour like 2 years ago, and we went to a bunch of countries. And every single country that we went to, Shopsy, like, listen, every single country we went to, we were in fucking Venice, bro. We were like maybe 2 families in the entire Venice that were black.
But Afrobeats was
But
back.
Afrobeats is playing in all of the stores in Italy. They don't even understand what we're saying. So you can imagine what that makes me feel like. This is me who's coming from Nigerian music is not even playing on Nigerian radio.
Yep.
To get to the point where I'm in Venice, I'm in Rome, I'm in where was it in France, some weird little city in France, and not just hearing the music being played, I'm seeing the culture being fully embraced. This is like my dream at the time when I started come to fruition, right? And I couldn't be more grateful to be alive to witness it. Because I remember I had those conversations with Sound Sultan, Dari, back in the day when I told them, I said, listen, guys, this thing is going to get to the point where it's going to be international, it's undeniable, and this is what happens with anything that is original and unique. And I also say that being from Nigeria, and I'll say this with my full chest, Nigeria is the source of the sauce, okay?
Talk that talk.
Nigeria is the source of the sauce, because if you even think about African American culture, the majority of the people who were transported to the U.S.
Nigerian DNA.
they have Nigerian DNA. And it's undeniable that when they put their hearts into anything, the rest of the world is going to acknowledge and recognize. And I feel like that's what happened with Afrobeats. And I feel like that's what's happening now, really with anything that we touch. You know, whatever spaces we go into, we just, the essence now, we are the source of the essence now. So, you know what I'm saying?
That leads into the second question. Young artists in Nigeria trying to break through, what are your absolute do's and absolute don'ts for some? Because you've seen a lot of incredible talent that never achieved what they were supposed to achieve.
100%.
So please give some absolute do's and absolute don'ts to some of the young artists that are looking to get into the game, or some of those that are now popping that could still make a couple mistakes.
Man, that's a tough one. I got to think about it. But I'll answer it two ways, right?
Yeah.
There's the business side,
Yep.
and then there's the essence side,
Yes.
right? Absolute don'ts.
Yeah.
On the essence side, keep it Nigerian,
Facts.
because that's the only thing that makes you original.
Culture.
You don't get to the point where you start getting sucked into, no, come do some mainstream pop. No, don't do that. If you don't keep it Nigerian, because that's the only thing that makes you unique, right? You can't out-rap Jay-Z or Kendrick. You can't. You just cannot.
Nobody's going to.
So if you're going to do it, be Olamide. Be
Fino.
Hell. Be Vector, even. Right? Be Fino. But don't try to be Eminem.
Don't be Jay-Z.
Don't try to be Jay-Z, because you're not going to ever outdo Jay-Z. What Jay-Z can't do is he can't out-rap you in Pigeon. He can't.
Facts.
Right? So that's an absolute don't on the essence side. Now on the business side, take ownership. I don't say this lightly. I see a lot of deals, and because I'm still in touch with a lot of artists, right? I see a lot of deals where people are, signing off their publishing, signing off ownership of their creative rights and control of the music. That's where the money is. Don't get it twisted. These advances, you will spend them. I have spent millions of dollars. I don't know where it went. So when you get money from a label, oh, yeah, we'll give you $2 million, we'll give it, and be like, oh, shit, yeah, I'll do whatever you say. Please, you have to remember that the only way you have control is if you control the asset. So please, don't give up your creative content. Yeah. The do's, I would say, is recognize where you're coming from, and recognize that, again, the source of the sauce is our culture. So don't leave our culture behind, right? You make sure that you stay there with the culture. Make sure that you understand that you're an ambassador of Nigerian culture. So just kind of keep that as well. Yeah.
On my way here, the final question, on my way here, I messaged a friend of mine who's also a good friend of yours by the name Bayo Mishori.
Okay.
And I said, I'm going to sit down
brother.
with my brother eLDee.
That's my brother.
What's the one question you would like for me to put to eLDee on your behalf? You know, he wrote a bunch of stuff.
The bio being bio.
Yeah, but it all came to one thing. There was the fact that, you were on the record with Freestyle and Kaboom recently, this and that. But the final question really is there a way for eLDee to come back into the game?
Never say never, they say, right? But then again, eLDee is growing gray hairs. We're currently part of a culture that once people get put or placed in OG status, it's almost like you're written off, so to speak, right? So first of all, eLDee will have to make new connections, right, to a totally new audience. So it's like starting my career all over again. Do I want to be an upcoming artist? Not right now. No. I probably don't.
I disagree with you, brother. Kid Sweat is touring. Boys to Men's touring. I saw.
No, I'll tour.
I saw Paul play Dyro a couple weeks ago, and I told him the market's still open. You can still make.
No, I'll tour. I'll tour. But that's my point. My point is, I have an audience that is probably in their late 30s now, going into their 50s. You know what I mean? So if they're gonna come see me, I'll tour. For fun, whatever, right? But as far as like creating new music, I would have to create a totally new audience. And I don't know if I have the energy for that right now, especially where I'm at and the amount of time that I want to spend, with my kids. My kids are 15 and 11 right now. I got to get them, to a point where, everything's nice. Then, hey, it's time to go out and play again. So maybe at some point down the road, we might say, hey, let's do some type of OG tour, because that's the box that we're in right now. You know what I'm saying? So I'll tour, but I don't know about. Yeah. Sometimes, people send me, tracks. Matter of fact, about a week ago, I heard Energy by Bills. Yep. Bills is an artist out here in Houston, right?
Yep.
And I reached out to him. I was like, yo, that shit is crazy. Send me the beat. As soon as he sent me the beat, I was like, bro, what do you
do on this?
What are you doing? Let it go. So it's the music is something that you don't choose music. Music chooses you, right? Music will always call you, but I just feel like I need to focus right now. And that's just not where my focus is.
Listen, my brother, it's honor to be out here in Atlanta, chopping it up with you. It's great to see you looking amazing. I see you riding around in that Tesla truck, man. I see the princesses. They took you to the, them K-pop concerts and all that. I see you. I follow you closely. So I'm proud of what you've done so far. I'm proud of how you led us into this game. And being here to just enjoy certain moments with you makes me even more excited. Ladies and gentlemen, in the room, please give a round of applause to my brother.
Thank you very much.
eLDee the God!
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, bro.
Thanks for having me, brother. And we need to see you in the UK.
For sure.
That's what we
For sure. I'll be back.
We need you in the UK, man. That's what we need.
I'll be back.
The Afrobeats Podcast.
Right. Got that sauce.